This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer.
Mark your calendars if you are following the Delphi murder case. The next relevant date is going to be coming up on January 18th of 2024. It's when there's going to be oral arguments made in front of the Indiana Supreme Court to extend what's going on here, to put some sort of resolution to three main points. Number one, that trial, with the actual trial date to be set within 70 days. They'll rule on that. Should the attorneys, Rozzi and Baldwin, be reinstated? Should Judge Gull go? We'll have 60 minutes to discuss that coming up on the 18th. Here to discuss what the outcome of that may be when we get there, Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI Special Agent. Three major points, and this really could work out in any number of combination of ways. What is your thoughts as we get closer and closer to this date?
Well, I think most telling about this is the fact that the Supreme Court in Indiana is willing to hear oral arguments. Oftentimes, they will get these sorts of motions, writs, and it's a rubber stamp. No, we're not going to be looking at this, and they rule. And they rule on an issue and order, and it's done. Mm-hmm. So for them to entertain oral arguments, I think, is in favor of Richard Allen's camp, that they would even get that opportunity. So that was the first thing I noticed. Particularly, I noticed in my Twitter thread, I have a lot of attorneys on there, and they often offer so much interesting insight and varying views. But in this case, most have been in alignment, and that is, this is going to go nowhere. Gull is going to stay in place. These were egregious actions done in terms of allowing these photos to be seen by outside people, and there's no way that they're going to be reinstated. The attorneys on this case, but now they're questioning themselves. I'm alone on an island here. We all are.
Yeah.
So, because I've always thought that the Sixth Amendment is just so crucial in our system. The right to work with an attorney and to have that attorney represent you, to be able to represent yourself. Mm-hmm. So even really unqualified people are allowed to represent themselves. Pick out the most obvious, Ted Bundy. Was he really qualified as some criminal attorney with lots of experience? No, but the judge allowed it because of that Sixth Amendment right that we each have. And Richard Allen wants Baldwin and Rozzi. He wants to maintain them as his attorneys, and they want to stay. And furthermore, they've even offered to do it pro bono, mm-hmm. without the state covering it anymore. So I don't know if these justices will really be able to say that leaving photos on your conference table is an egregious crime that's been committed, in conjunction, of course, with some of their filings. But those filings could have been protected by the judge or the clerk, and they weren't. So is it really their fault that they put forth the filing and it found its way to the public?
Sure. I mean, there's so many missteps here, in this case. I mean, obviously, those documents should not have gotten out of Baldwin, out of the attorney's office. It just shouldn't have happened. Was it done with gross negligence? I don't think that was the case. This was, I think, the attorneys were victims of a crime here as well. Does it bode to, you need to be more careful? Sure. I think that's an arguable thing you could do. But to say you cannot represent this man who wants you to be his representative, who you are willing to represent pro bono, the state has no stake in the game in terms of money. I don't understand how that cannot take place. That clearly is a Sixth Amendment violation, black and white. It really is. Because, again, we're saying, look, if the bar is as low as you can represent yourself in court, which Richard Allen wanted to do, they'd have to allow him to do it. Why could you then not have someone represent you who does have far more experience, is willing to do this pro bono. It just doesn't make any sense. And then it leads us into the territory of, well, why don't you want them representing him? Is this more of a power move, a control move, a not being wrong move? Or is there some concern of what he's going to bring to the table on this? And then that goes into the conspiracy area, and it gets kind of wacky from there. But they tee it up. They bring you right to the precipice of thinking, conspiracy could be a possibility in this case, if it weren't for the realization that there's so many moving parts and people involved in a conspiracy theory that it almost makes it impossible to execute.
Right. You bring up such good points, and maybe they'll split the baby. I mean, look, what did Rozzi do wrong in this?
Yeah.
Nothing. It wasn't his conference room. It wasn't his buddies.
Exactly.
It wasn't anything. And so how is he being punished because his partner allowed this? I mean, just by extrapolation, to me, that's not gross negligence on his part.
No.
So I think that's, maybe they'll split the baby and say, Rozzi, you're good. Baldwin, you're out. It's really concerning if this goes any other way. And as far as Gull, I mean, we've seen her from the very beginning. I was so excited when she got on this case compared to the other judge that was, that was an incestuous deal. They were all, he needed to be removed, and he stepped down.
Yeah.
Stepped out of the case. But I was so excited to see Judge Gull come on and have just this fresh outside look. And now you wonder, is she really removed herself, and can she be a judge that is truly in the middle of the ground? I don't really know anymore. And how about the fact, Tony, that they just transferred him, I believe, right around 4 hours away from where he was previously kept. And no, they didn't put him in a county jail like every other person. They put him in another maximum security jail or prison.
Yeah, under the cover of dark, without any. Yes. Yeah, it's just, if there was a playbook of, okay, what do we need to do in this script to make this look more like a conspiracy, and we're trying to cover something up. Oh, let's do that. But you're not. That's not what's happening. But we need to do these moves. Like, that's it's not going to look well. It isn't, and it's just going to cause more problems. Continuing down the path of Richard Allen essentially get a new trial-free card from the board.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Of course, as he awaits trial, the 70 days, he has not waived that. Mm-hmm. And he should be entitled to a speedy trial. And I think in this case, this is one of these cases where the prosecution probably doesn't want that. Yeah. Do they really have all their ducks in a row? It doesn't seem like they do. And there are a lot of issues, too, that are going to arise. There's Brady Giglio on the table. There was supposed to be this Franks hearing. Mm-hmm. The court decided already, listen, they're going to have to start all over on that. The paperwork is not going to be allowed at this point. And they said they don't want to hear anything more about that. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't come back into play.
Yeah. The list goes on and on and on in this. And yeah, I think you're exactly right. The reason, and this is where where bad behavior, bad moves can often look like conspiracy. I think at the end of the day, in some of this, it's just constantly somebody made a bad decision. Somebody tried to cover for that, and then someone needed to cover for this over here, and it just kept snowballing to the point where, they were not that far out from trial. They were going to have that Franks hearing, and my opinion is that court, that city, that government, they didn't want that sort of thing being exposed. They knew they weren't also prepared to go to trial in that short of time. So what do? Well, I guess you pull something like this and make these accusations against attorneys as a last-ditch effort to try and move the goalpost back a little bit further. I mean, that's just my opinion, my theory on it. But when you keep doing things like that over and over, they're certainly wrong, unethical, probably illegal to a certain extent. But does it then go into the level of Odinism or covering something up that way? No, but it continues to be people covering up their bad decisions.
Yeah, when you look into that crystal ball that none of us really have, but I just think with Gull, I will be surprised if she stays on the case, and I think they may use her health issues, perhaps as a gentle way for her even to say, I've got serious health issues. This is too much, and I'm going to recuse myself due to that. I just thought it was very interesting, the timing of all this coming down, and then all of a sudden she had very serious health issues. Did one cause the other, or is one going to aid the decision? I don't know, but that could come into play. I think, they're going to have to go to trial sooner rather than later. I mean, Gull came out and just summarily said, okay, we're going to trial in a year from now. Well, if they're ready to go to trial, I guess the state can try to put that off. But if he gets these attorneys back, they have no interest in that. They want to go to trial sooner rather than later. Yeah,
it's going to be a telling day on the 18th. Hopefully we make it there and Richard Allen makes it there and there's not some other weird, bizarre delay. But in this case, anything seems to be possible.
I wish we could have seen him transferred too. I wonder what kind of physical condition he is in. I've been trying to get the records of his weight because we saw the weight when he was initially arrested. And I am so curious as to his weight now. We look at it on paper and it looks like he's lost 50, 60 pounds. I mean, he just looks so small compared to, how he looked when he was initially arrested. I wonder what his weight is now and how he is looking. I also wonder why they transferred him. I just thought it was interesting, coincidental, that they put him at the exact same facility, again, 4 hours away as Keegan Kline. Keegan Kline apparently, has been absolved of any role in this. But there was that online account of shots. And was there any interplay with Abby and all of that was talked about very early on in terms of them meeting, right? It's always bothered me in this case how Richard Allen, if he committed this murder, knew that he would have targets there to kill, knew that, this would be the time and place. I always, struggled with that lining up.
Yeah. It'll be fascinating to watch and hopefully everything goes, as it should. So justice can be served at the end of the day for those two little girls, no matter who is at fault. They need to find the right person.
So well said. In the midst of all the minutia, what gets lost are Abby and Libby and justice for them. And I think we all are concerned that will that ever be found?
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.